today, Rinpoche showed us how the chronic disease of the self-cherishing attitude is to blame for all negativities in our life, and the attitude which cherishes others is responsible for all forms of happiness and excellent qualities we will have.
Oh, yeah. What the ring of the Shoal Jula then, the Yabaji was sensitive to the Lamrim of Sun Deputy, wouldn't go good and do. Could be it in Shang than would.
Okay, so once again, we will be looking at Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment. And specifically, we're at the section on the lineage of training, or the lineage passed down from great master Shantideva, called equalizing and exchanging self with others. So in Tibetan, we're on page 312, and in English, we are on page 51. So it's not marked, so it's 52, and then just go back one.
What did that Dajin that Dajin G. Pen, the Dajin Maji near me. Dajin, you know, won't be true what some Marbe, some
Tambo.
that Dajin just in a dad and Jens one, dad and Jen. Don't all dialogue, so my Jendal Jenlo to go. Dad and Jens again there, and the Ganders and Trebaina, and the home of the 7 of Maris. Dad and Jen there, do so doing you going to Javramado. Dajin to Jidis, dying in a Jane, Jane in a dying chosen the Jidis, and what the Dajin in the Tunjis on Tangores.
Less so.
What Dajin, what did you lose on the college?
Less so. So what does this mean, equalizing and exchanging self with others? First, we look at the two words, self and other. Self refers merely to I, to myself. This is when we say this word self, it's referring to the I, to me. Other refers to anyone other than myself, so anyone else. So self and other is I and anyone else. So we have, currently, we look at the two as completely different words. We look at them as different as yellow and blue would be. So we would say that they're mutually exclusive in the same way that those two words are. But if we look at the words self and other, we'll find that the words self and other are mutually inclusive and are actually synonymous. Because if it is a self, it is an other. And if it is an other, it is a self. So we see that these two words, if someone is a self, they are an other as well. And if there is an other, they are a self to themselves. So these two words are mutually inclusive, whereas comparing two topics such as yellow and blue, there's not a common locus. They're mutually exclusive. So this is the first relationship that we have to understand between these two words, self and other.
That Dajin Yamba just had there, and the Ran Jiban Ziban, Jen Jiban, Ran Yen Yondo, and Ran Yondo, the Dajin Yamba just what things are this Marba.
So currently we grasp at this cherishing of ourselves, and the exchange that we're making here is we disregard others usually, and the exchange here is that we change that attitude from cherishing ourselves to cherishing others. So this is the exchange that's taking place of self and other. We're exchanging the attitude which currently grasps at self-cherishing, and then turning it into one that grasps at cherishing others. And that word grasp isn't being put in there as like grasping at the eye or something like that. It's just it's a word that it's just translated, but it's not the same exact word and meaning. It doesn't have the same negative connotation necessarily. that it would in the grasping at phenomena as being truly established, because you can grasp at cherishing others, and it's positive. So just as a translator's note in the words, etymologies, when we break them down. So that is the relationship between self and other. And the relationship between self and other, and the exchange that we make in terms of the attitude we currently have towards self and others. So we cherish ourselves and disregard other, and we exchange that attitude for one that cherishes others. Okay, Khensur Rinpoche.
sentient tantric doan do dungen do mares. On the doade sentient banzi vichezi la den doan do mares. Dungen do ma dungen jude ranje banzi bala den dungen mares marbe.
Leso. The Tambo Yanju Suro?
Dungen do maro.
Dene?
Dungen jude ranje zidres. Ne doa jude sentient zidres.
Okay. So all sentient beings want to have happiness. And when we look at what the causes of happiness are, they are cherishing others. And all sentient beings want to be free from suffering. And if we look at what the causes for suffering are, we'll see that there are cherishing ourselves are the causes for suffering. So here we see what needs to change in order to experience happiness and get rid of suffering. Khensur.
Waji dadane wade shiwala yula dene jambala sonle dajen ji pen dan ne majibi nyemi samba je nyemi samba rwa ta dajen ji pen samba dela wade janji be wade saji ji jagno saji ji dajen ji pen kadul go amra je jerwa ne wade saji ji diware.
Okay, so when we break down this section, going now to the great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment, the major heading is the training based on the teachings of the conqueror's child, Shantideva, and then there are three categories. The first category is contemplating the benefits of exchanging self and other and the faults of not exchanging self with other. So this is the first category. And then first we deal with the benefits. The Panyun Dan Nyame Nyamdu, Rinpoche? Tambo. Okay, so when we break these down into categories of benefits of exchanging self and other and faults of not exchanging self with other, Jayan Sheba states that there are four categories in the first, which are the benefits of exchanging self with other. And we lead off in the great treatise with a quote from Master Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, or Engaging in the Bodhisattva Deeds. Okay, the Long Lama song.
Dada Jento Jeshawa, Sanyi Tamba Jeva Shas, what the Tambure, Shunjule Kanji, Dada Jento Jeva, Dajan Yaba Jeva, Dajan Yaba Jeva, Dada Jento Jeva, Ne, Nyoto Jaban Doba De, Nyoto Jaban Dobas, Taranta Jen, Nyoto Jaban Dobas, Gundo, Jaban Doba De, Dada Jento Jeshawas, 다 라지반지 제제 제제반지 제제니 제바 샤와 상이 담바 제바샤 소데 냐네 제네 상와 제우레스 상와 제냐네 제네 하고면로아 대동부레.
So the first among the four is this quote from Master Shantideva's Engaging in the Bodhisattva Deeds. It says, "Whoever wishes to quickly protect self and other must exchange self and other, practice this excellent secret." So the Dunda Yanjer Surana.
Ganji Dadan Jenones, Nedu Jaban Dobates, and the Gaza Ganji Dadan Jen, Nedu Jaban Doba, Nesung Dungel Jaba, Kui Dungel Jaba, Ne Shidi Jabal Jaba, the Niger, Jaban Dobate. Doba Yobate, da dan jen du je shawa ane da jen nyalen je ures ta sangwa je nyalen je ures sangi dan ba je ba shas
Then Sawa, they got it.
sangwa se da jen nyalen je no te sangwa je nyalen je sangwa je ba yina ya ga yu je ba ta sigu
Less so. Okay, two chena. So what this means is whoever wishes to quickly protect self and other. So one who wishes to, what does protect mean? Protect self and other from the lower realms of cyclic existence, from the various types of suffering that one has to endure, from the obstructions to, the afflictive obstructions and then the obstructions to omniscience. So these are what one is being protected from. So self and other is being protected from the lower realms and these various negativities. Must exchange self and other, practice this excellent secret. So one should engage in this practice of exchanging self with other if one wishes to be protected from negativities and as explained. And it says, practice this excellent secret. And Rinpoche said that this should be done secretly. One shouldn't be outwardly practicing. This should be an inner practice, a secret practice of exchange of self and other, not something that's outward and talked about. I'm so happy.
ta nipa dare nipa jiten dawa jinen ba te gun jen de le jons jen je ba zibe jenen la den dawa nga yungu are jen je ba zibe jenen de ne rajen ta ji dawa gu jure se andere ndo da jiten dawa jenen ba as dandu dang ru samal dawa yoro dawa de jo kare san dawa jenen ba te gun jen de le jons ran jen je ba zibe jenen gu jo she ba la den ne shon yo ares jen de le shon jiten do nga jenen ba ane mandobi dongen de dundu dongen do sanji ge dogo mar mandobi dongen de judo karasana te kun daden de le jon raji ban de jenden le jon wares what ni bare
Shiloka chi.
shuluga ji do otre
Okay, nipa shiloka chi kuna.
ji
Okay. So number 2 is this next stanza that is also from engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds. It says, whatever worldly joy there is arises from wishing for others' happiness. Whatever worldly suffering there is arises from wishing for your happiness. So all of the various happinesses that are experienced in any of the realms, any among the realms of cyclic existence, any bit of happiness that is experienced comes from cherishing others or arises from wishing for others' happiness. So from cherishing others. And it says whatever worldly suffering there is, so whatever suffering occurs in any of the realms, in the sufferings that occur in the higher realms, sufferings that occur in the lower realms, all of these various types of suffering that occur are all a result of cherishing others. I mean of self-cherishing attitude. So all of the joys and happinesses in the higher and lower realms arise from cherishing others, and all of the sufferings and negativities in the higher and lower realms come from cherishing oneself. So this is the first point that's made. This is actually number 2 in the outline of Jayan Sheba's outline.
somba do de mod ane mod je da jigu de sheba rang ge tön je dan toba jen ji tön je ba de jin cheba tus ane da jin ya ba je ge na phen yo ba de ke cha mo she go mares shaja to be ane jen je ban je ran yo wan do ala de sa je so res ane nga chu ra je ban je ane jen yo wan do ala de da da ba do sama je ba de o de la de ne she to res mo de she da je gu de sheba rang gi tön je sheba su su chu je rang je ban je jen sheba da toba shaja man bu da jen toba jen je tön je ba de jin de la de ne ha gu res cheba du so wa de ba do somba re.
So number 3 is this. What need is there to say more? Look at the difference between these two. Ordinary persons act for their own welfare. The sage acts for others' welfare. So here the point is being made is if you look at an ordinary being and then you look at a Buddha and you compare these two beings and look at the differences between a Buddha and look at the different and an ordinary being, it will be very clear to see the difference. And the one the difference in attitude among these two beings is that Buddhas cherish others, put others before themselves, cherish others. Ordinary beings, like ourselves, cherish ourselves. So this is the difference in terms of attitude between ordinary beings and a Buddha. And then look at the outcome. Look at the difference between an ordinary person and a Buddha. And it says, what need is there to say more? It's translated a lot of different ways. It's translated like, it's very obvious. It's so obvious, isn't it? So the meaning is it's very obvious when you compare these two beings that the Buddha is superior. And the difference in attitude is that the Buddha cherishes others. And that's what makes him or her superior. Geshe Rinpoche. That's number 3 in John Shiva's outline.
Jibas. Jibal what does go to Tajiba?
Shiloka Jiba.
Jiba do what the dal. Jiba the that is Jenji doing it out, Jiba than Muyore. That is Jenji doing it out, Yanda Joa Majina, Sanji Nidu Munduji, Kwa Naya de Wame, Chesumba Tar. That Jiban Zibi, Guba Kunju Godan, Zen Jiban Zimba, Pensu Tanjiji, Pensu Tanjiji, Nesu Samos, Dajen Ji Samba. What then ma that gender leon bare niba de saji niba
Tatayen.
Yeah. That jiba do what that jenji donga da yada jo majina da jenya ba majina saji gumu tuja kali khabshira re sinje samal saji gumu tuya ge neba yo re saji ge rig chadu yo re saji tuya ge neba yo na ya anne what da jenya ba ji gune 세지도 마구나 산지 깔리 카브레스 산지니도 모르진스 코알로 그 내가 내나야 안에 도와용고 말에 등해용고레스 코아나야 도와메 제송바다르 다 제반 zemba 고바군지 고다라니 제네 고바군지 고 만나 제네 대군지 두서레도다 라니 제네 고바군지 라 제네데 제가 나시 동해라서 고박군지 교레스 고레스 이제 제반점에 전진데 편순소바 타지그 교레스 라니 전주 고박군지 만나 전진에 대군지제 네 what 소리도 레렌타지 찔라다 군라 가딘 쳐바공 what 소리도 돼 다다 젠도 저반 담은이는 메도 공스宣주 로제바 말베 what do you do?
The Chiran de Long Ni, the Garne. The Shunju Long, Yene, the Long Jenda, the Lojun Dund.
That the Jenda Joan Tambani in the bed, Shunju Lujeba Marbe, Jeban Gungo to Euro. Dajanaba Jegun Sanji with the Tambani in the college on Gungores, Shunju Lujeba Gulu. That Rani Jinju Gobakunju, Manajin, Tengu said, the Lama Chuba, the Lama Chuba.
Yeah.
Lenantaji Jilla, the Kula Kanisha, Lujon Marble Lujon.
Lojun Dundama.
Yeah.
Less so. Okay, Kanga Yure. So we see this last number 4 is the rest of it. So it says, if you do not genuinely exchange your own happiness for others' suffering, you will not achieve Buddhahood. And even in cyclic existence, you will have no joy. Consider how being self-centered is the door to all suffering, and being other-centered is the basis of all excellence. So we see this point that's made in the Bodhichara Avatara, and then also in the 8th chapter. If I don't find it right now, I'll find it right at the break. We find this quote that supports this idea that the door to all happiness is cherishing others, and the door or the pathway to all suffering is cherishing oneself. And then we also find in the Guru Puja the quote that says, "This chronic disease of cherishing ourselves is the cause giving rise to our unsought suffering. Perceiving this, we seek your blessings to blame, begrudge, and destroy the monster demon of selflessness, of selfishness." And then also in the Lojun Dunduma, the 7-point thought transformation by Geshe Chikawa, we also find the quote that says, "Banish the one to blame for everything. Meditate on the great kindness of all." So here we find this common theme throughout the texts that shows meditate. Okay, banish the one object to of every blame. Meditate on the great kindness of all. Practice a combination of both giving and taking. So we find this common theme in the mind training texts, and where it states that the self-cherishing attitude is the reason for all negativity, and the attitude which cherishes other is the reason for all wonderful things that happen. So these are the points that are made here and in number 4 in Jayan Sheba's outline. Digson.
Oh yeah, ta nga zo wo de kha du le ya na nga zo de ne de xie wu du. Ta sha chue de lo ne de de. Book.
Oh, the bag?
What the hell do you did at the college?
Rinpoche needs his. Can somebody get Rinpoche's bag? He can't get it. Ted, do you know what he's?
What is
some bag?
What was blue?
The blue, something blue. Oh, the book.
Oh yeah.
I thought he said bag. He said book. It was in English, so I'm sorry. No, Teb. He said Teb. It's a book in Tibetan. Becha. Oh, I have a minute. I don't think it's in this.
That didn't tell you do. Also, what the London, Dajan G. Pen de la Dajan G. Pen, Shanchu de Saint Jib Chudan, Saint Jib Pen Marbe, Pen de la Dombu Gobin do Dan, Beijing do Ni Dan, Shanchu Saint Pen Shig do. What the Pen Shig do, what the Pen do what the Shanchu Saint Jib so now gone. Dala ke de zu she na ki khan gu ka de den de la ban ju ros gang ge she me da ne ji song je she na me gang ge ren shen da gu ga de ji den gu la pyo ye gang ge ta ma she je de sha shu de ne san de na che ban de che ba pa dala tan ma che so wo de xue ju ma de xue ju wo de xue ju wo de bei ji jun do da dong bu ge ben de ni zhang ne sha shu ge sen ge pen she ge duo Dombu Gobindo to understand. Dombu Gobindo de and do Quincy Charisha, Quincy Cha, Shogo Sonja, Sonja Sogulu. Do Quincy.
Then this Shunju, the Shanchu Landun, Kagi.
Shanchu London do Shanchu London.
Shanchu Landun.
Shanchu Sanji between the Pen Shigro.
Pain.
사주 생지 평양 거들라 기도주진
Jetsun Shamba.
어디 샴 어디 가서 돈도와 어디 베이징 수빈도 된대래 베이징 수빈도 돼도 근지래 간주 근지 네 짜버래 짜차
100?
짜래도 근지 짜래 근지 짜 네 수동 송자 송주 소고도 송주 소고
Sumja Sugo.
송주 소고
309. And the Kangjur.
간주 짜버래 짜봐 짜차 짜냐 짜
100.
수동 송자
Go.
송주 소고래
Sugo. And Kanjur
309
9. 309?
39 그래
339?
39로
And
What
they
the-
conjure the Sache? They got the Dondagare.
간주가 된다 뜻이온 거 딱 하다 베이징 주민도 들어야 베이징 주민도 베이징 세아도 어때 베이징 세아도 자가가 어때 산지 시족 들래 롬바가 잡은다 지금 리치래 리치 베이징 세간데 롬바가 잡은다 뭐지 안나 차 탕지 놓고 쇼부래죠 쇼부지 안나 그 조보 안에 어딘데 그 무슨 가자도 가자 500 family 500 family 아니 그래서 그가 되지네 나서 나비 최제고도 나비 최제고 나비 최라 팀행 최다 티진 최니 와레스 팀행 최제고매 나서 어디 태바 준비 최제고도
Them Ngapja.
뭔가자요
Okay, Ngapja.
다 베이징 코트로 뭔가자요 500 family
Trobo, the Viradata Trobo.
두가 베이징 도보로 베이징 그래서 그걸로 어때 저지는 가서 나 최제고도
Lesso.
태명이 최제고에
Lesso.
태진이 최제고 예스 너 그래서 그걸로 어때 상지 군이 신도 상지
Ale.
그래서 그 상지 군이 신
Lesso.
나는 가서 티바 챔비 최제하고 되봐 유스
Lesso.
나는 가르냐는 제고레스
Ah, the Yablu. Okay. Lesso.
어때 어때 상지를 쉬도 내 상지게 추수 대바 챔비 최제야 되봐 여봐이나 신지 챔부 공司 신지 챔부 대바 챔비 라지 자와 인송과래 어때 소련도 계셔버린도 신지 챔부 냐래제스 신지 챔부 냐래제 되는 시도 냐래제 거레스 신지 챔부 냐래제 신도 냐래 아버지나 아는 상지는 그래스
Shintu.
실수
Yeah,
버버지
Lesso. Shintu. Okay. Tuche. Then a con the trison.
다 망가졌다 베이징 고속 걸로 상지 군을 치러 가서 대바 챔비 취해야
맞아요.
되고 유스
Lesso.
아니 상지가 도송 버다 주도 희진이야래지
Lesso.
아니 시스 퍼바진이야래지
Lesso.
어디 송도 상지
Lesso. So when we find the sutra requested by Viradatta, the story behind this is that Viradatta was in a place in India where there were 500 the Kinsangacha Mengapja.
진상가지
There were
진상가지
500 families, and they were acquaintances of Viradatta, and they had a desire to learn Buddhism. And when we divide Buddhism into categories, we find that there is the Hinayana Buddhism, tradition of Buddhism, and the Mahayana tradition of Buddhism. And they all discussed this, and they decided that they were interested in learning the Mahayana tradition of Buddhism. So they called upon Lord Buddha, and when Lord Buddha arrived, Viradatta asked what the best practice was, what was the best thing that they could do in order to advance as practitioners. And the Buddha stated that great compassion was the real meditation and was the root of the great vehicle teachings, and that one should devote themselves to great compassion and the 6 perfections. Then this is where this sutra comes from. Geshe Rinpoche.
Wada kuzu sanji lo wada shunu sanji kuzu da kuyu nyemi mataba da wada mamu songshata.
So the Buddha spoke of many things, such as the downfalls of cyclic existence and impermanence also.
Kuyu nyemi mamu masuna nganjung samba chego maru wada kuyu nyemi jeshi jeba nudane.
So by speaking of the downfalls of cyclic existence, then this allows the practitioner to generate renunciation, the desire to definitely emerge. So these topics were also spoken of.
Tene kuzu wada tamalo meji chulo zoba toba resa ya. Meji chulo zoba toba resa. Meji chulo zoba tene solong le zemu zoba si yorowa. Yolong le zoba yodorowa. Tolong le zoba yodo karina. Kante zoba karina hamu. Ta kante kuwa le yangja jiwa le mungu zoba toba resa.
Mechi?
Meji chulo zoba toba as. Kuwa le meji. Yangja kuwa le jigo ma resa. Dama ina yangja kuwa le jigo rota.
Leso. Zupa?
Meji
Julam Zupa?
Meji chulo zoba.
Oh, leso. Okay, leso. Zupa lena yanjer jegomare. Okay. That's good. So one practitioner was able to achieve the level of patience of the path of preparation. So when we look at the different 5 Mahayana paths, there's the path of accumulation, the path of preparation, the path of seeing, the path of meditation, the path of no more learning. The path of preparation, the second path, accumulation, path of preparation, there are 4 categories: heat, peak, patience, and the last mundane state of cyclic existence. This state of patience at the path of preparation means that one is no longer born into the lower realms of cyclic existence again. So once one reaches that, it is said. One practitioner reached that level during this presentation, it is said. Dikson.
Landrun de gadun landrun what is ang juji da joson juju what in ma yong do juji de beijing de do do ne me san da jebi yue da ga yi ba den dongbu ge bin do dongbu ge ban de sonyin ge jema lu yi dongbu ge ba yi ndo le shang bei ro de xes pen de dongbu ge bin do de chang ne ya shang wang ge song do ti ndo ba lama le nye de zubi shang ju sen ji yuen den ta men ba na ba she la ju ten do de da yang na yang do sen je ba jas do bu ge bin do ro ta beijing je ju do ta le de so na ro den ba kan ti se ji song zang do du nen de de jas shang ju sen ji so na ga de la ge de zo je na ke kan gun kan de dēne tēyī lāpañ jōrōs, kāngi shimī dānyā jī, sāngcī shīnā mī kāngi, rīshā tā kūñ kāngi, jī tēng guā lā pīwā yī, kāngi tāma shā jī tē, shāngchū tūni, sāng tūna, chōpa nān chōpa bā, wā tō bā tīng sā rī bā, wā tē Beijing shūpiñ tō tō wā tē dēl tō tē.
So Rinpoche...
Ātī shā kō tē, ndē tsēliān nō tē lī shā nō tē.
So Rinpoche also included the numbers, which I don't really understand, and I guess we're going to learn more about it, but how in the conjure where this exactly is, 339, and he said another number. I don't really understand what it refers to, so I'll have to get back to everyone on that, but it was just where it's found in the pronouncements of Lord Buddha exactly. And I don't know anything about cataloging, so he started explaining it, and I just don't know anything about it, so we'll have to table that. It was very short, but he just mentioned where 300 exactly it's found in the Kangjur, and Rinpoche has the sutra now requested by Viradatta, and he said in the future we'll also get the array of trunk sutra by Maitreya out as well. We just haven't yet. So the reason I'm saying that is because it begins at this whole section in the Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment. If everybody wants to turn to the prayer book, to the lamp for the path to enlightenment. It begins at stanza number
我这个
12.
是电北京举是电鼓的，
It begins at
举
stanza
的举，安个举。
number 12, and stanza number 14 is where we find this sutra requested by Viradatta reference. So I'm going to go ahead and read the entire section that pertains to anyone who's looking for it. It's page 24, 25, and we're on stanza 12 through, I think we end at 17 or so. Okay, so we begin. The qualities of developing such an aspiration are fully explained by Maitreya in the Array of Trunk Sutra. Having learned about the infinite benefits of the intention to gain full enlightenment, by reading this sutra or listening to a teacher, arouse it repeatedly to make it steadfast. The sutra requested by Viradatta fully explains the merit therein. At this point in summary, I will cite just three verses. If it possessed physical form, the merit of the altruistic intention would completely fill the whole of space and exceed even that. If someone were to fill with jewels as many Buddha fields as there are grains of sand in the Ganges to offer to the protectors of the world, this would be surpassed by the gift of folding one's hands and inclining one's mind to enlightenment, for such is limitless. Okay, so that's where Rinpoche read up to. Digsan Rinpoche.
北京举是北京嘛的呗，北京举行都大的是北京水平都多的人多。
The sutra requested by Viradatta. So again, that's stanza number 14, and Rinpoche has the
我的
text
北
here.
京水平多的我的，感觉跟自己家吧，松家就收了都松。
So, and this is in the Kangjur, Gunzi, 100th, I don't know, the 100th Gunzi, 100th collection, section 339, something like that.
北京的我的这把绕用等的人们都清吧这些清吧。
So Viradatta was not a monk, was not ordained. He was a householder.
长期性这个对了我的被扩人气的人气。
He was extremely wealthy.
茶汤进的我的书不应该，俺们可以做不我的，那排行的排名多。
Because of his wealth and almost fame, charisma, maybe he had 500 families that were his friends, and was able to get the Buddha to come. So he was somebody who was had kind of power and presence and wealth.
他可是跟我拿去接对吧？我是地面去接个面，特别前边去接我都，我是上街里去个亲戚，上街公园路对了，那上街个就是特别前边去接对吧？有把人呐，那现在前面娘来接是，那40%娘来接是，
So
那可以年没没送啥。
so he came to the Buddha and said, "We have the desire to learn the Buddha Dharma, but we don't wish to learn just any Buddha Dharma. We don't want to learn the Hinayana teachings alone. We want to learn the great vehicle teachings because we have a desire to become Buddhas. We want to become Buddhas." So the Buddha said, if this is your wish, if this is your desire, then great compassion should be of great importance to you, and this practice should be a main practice. Because it is the root of the Mahayana, and the six perfections then should be practiced as well. But then the Buddha gave an enormous explanation about the downfalls of cyclic existence, or the negativities of samsara.
我打工资，我的看这个老人的北京的水平，最大的这样对吧？有把人呐，感觉工资加吧。 那松家说过，我真的嘛，我这把到了北京去路的，这还是路。
So anyone who's looking to find this, which is referenced in Atisha's Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, the sutra requested by Viradatta, you can find it in Rinpoche saying it in Tibetan, so anyone who is looking for it will know exactly what he's saying. But it's in the Kangjur 100th section, Kangjur 100 collection section 339 or something to that effect. I'm sure it makes a lot of sense to a cataloger, those numbers, what they mean.
quand这世界上人对对人的上就先说那刚才的的人多的，我的浪着不够多。
So, all of the merit that the merit that one gets from arousing this mind that aspires to enlightenment is explained very clearly in this this sutra that Rinpoche keeps holding up. He's saying that I hold in my hands, that I hold in my hands.
我的老人家来这个做了，我的俺说我的刚被真等下月是 zero nonce。老人家来这个不晓得跟老人路上这个说了，那不晓得 zero nonce。
So those of you who are following on the computer, those of you who are not claim to be, but are studiers of the Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, should also at this point follow along to learn what this means in this section. So if you're a follower of the Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, someone who studies it, this section really is of great importance, because this is the sutra that Atisha is referring to in this text. And it's really not very difficult when we look at it. If you can get the text, then it's easy. So we'll take a short break. I don't know that he's going to explain it either. He might just be saying, here it is. Learn together.
Hola. 당아주 다지지 표현도 많이 비님이 다지지는 공나 절하와 저와스 송고나 다지지 표현 같은 거 봐. 제가 둘 제제 지금는다 다시 봤다 말베지 봐. 다지지 동아다 양다 저 마지나 상진이도 모르지 코아나야 도와면서 제바 어디 고슬 때나 네 골마 튀송 그 dumba 다들 제지 동에 다스 고지 안가된
The Nipa?
제바
The giant Sheba Sache Jipa?
Jipa.
Okay, the Shiloka Tama? Okay, Shunju. Okay, so we're looking at number 4 once again, just in Jayan Sheba's outline. It says, if you do not genuinely exchange your own happiness for others' suffering, you will not achieve Buddhahood, and even in cyclic existence, you will have no joy. Consider how being self-centered is the door to all suffering, and being other-centered is the basis of all excellence. So that's number 4.
다들 제지 동에 다양다 저 마지나 사지진도 못주지 사지고 못두고만 다전야바지 원 세마지나 사지고 못두고 말레스 코알 구이네거나야 안에 도와 용거 말이 동에 용거레스 코아나 도와메 제송바터 다 집안제마 고박군지 고라니 제는 고박군지 고서레도와 라지지 제가 나시 동에라 소바 타지 줘레스 제 집안제베 제존데 안에 평소소바 타지게 사지게 고봉라 소베 던도다 타바다 타지게 줘레스
Lessa.
평소소바 타지지 내수 사모스 오데바데 말이다.
Lessa. If you do not genuinely exchange your own happiness for others' suffering, you will not achieve Buddhahood. So if you don't exchange this attitude, if you don't change the attitude that cherishes yourself into one that cherishes others, then you can't achieve the state of Buddhahood. It's not possible. It's necessary to change your attitude in order to achieve that status. And it says, not only that, if you cherish yourself and don't cherish others, in cyclic existence you won't be happy. So not only will you not achieve Buddhahood, but while you're still in samsara, in cyclic existence, you will not be happy. So it says, consider how being self-centered is the door to all suffering. So all sufferings occur because of self-cherishing, and being other-centered, cherishing others, is the basis of all excellent qualities, all excellent results, achieving rebirth in the higher realms of cyclic existence, achieving liberation and complete Buddhahood. All of these are caused by cherishing others. So all these excellent results are caused by an excellent cause, which is cherishing others. Geshe Rinpoche.
다 다진 지 고도 속 걸로 체리벌 지나 뭐 체리벌 걸로 그랬어. 다진 라지바즈 비치지 다진 지바즈 비치지 지불 오레스.
Leso.
어 나주 되는 시고로다. 어디 체리벌 지나 걸로 그랬어.
So now we know what we think about cherishing self and others. So we know, according to the Buddha Dharma, what our presentation of the results of cherishing ourselves versus cherishing others are. So what would a scientist say, and how would he or she say these two relate to our experience? Digso. So scientists are great scholars and know so much. I wonder what they would say if they were asked this question. What comes from self-cherishing and what comes from cherishing others?
다 집안지 비지지 다제 집안지 비지지 데 공기 다제 냐바 저와 산타나 안 세드가 바 용거레스데 네 다제 냐바 저와 제투레스 제뉴바스 다제지 삼바고나 제뉴바네사
Leso.
니그는 담부드레
Leso.
하랑게 다제바 미투나 지바치와시 셰 튜버시네 자와나 데메나 머가와 쳔부 저와 따르 루공비 제수 셰베나 달라 젠진다 젠라 다진도 따와 고나 제데스 네 쉐주드니 제로 쉐주레 깔리 쉐두 마자데 데다 공비 퇴이네 강기 메퇴 제바야 데니메나 머간주로 셰다스 다글르네 젠다도 자바테다 까와메 제소스 어디니기는 담부더레도아
Leso.
담부다 소수다 담부 안주 메트바 이나야 신앙한도가 다주바 이나야 쇼고 조부차네 쇼고 조부차네 셰튠버시네 자와나스 ane dad mena magawa chambe chawata lukombi jesu shebe na dala jenje ta jenla da jin so sanlu matana ba sanlu dana yungure site kali khab kayo mares jenje to tawa kona chedes shonju tini jero kali shidu majate daje nyaba je gon sanje bad kali khab de shaju mares kali shidu majate 데다 공비 투이네 가게메 투지바야 공비 투이네 수수 자 메트나 신앙랑도가 다데 쇼고 조버차네 데메나 마가와지 용고도 와스 텐다브레스 마간조 셰단스 다글르데 젠다도 자바다다 까와메스 다글르데 젠글르 다글르 산타바이나 칼리카바가요마 로드 체그레스 What does it do?
Leso.
Yeah.
So the next section is called the ability to exchange self and other if you accustom yourself to the thought of doing so. And Jayan Sheba states that this section there are two major categories, 2 points that are being made. And the point of the heading is that it's possible. So this ability means that it's possible. So you have the ability to exchange self and other if you accustom yourself to the thought of doing so. So this exchange of attitude is possible if you familiarize yourself with it. So that's what it basically means, and there are 2 points, and it begins with number 1. Take the example of your enemy becoming a friend. At first, when you heard even the name of your enemy, fear arose. Later, you were reconciled and become such close friends that when you saw this new friend was absent, you were very unhappy. This reversal resulted from familiarizing your mind with a new attitude. So likewise, if you become habituated to viewing yourself as you presently view others with an attitude of neglect, and to viewing others as you presently view yourself with a cherishing attitude, you will exchange self and other. Engaging in the bodhisattva deed says, do not turn away from this difficulty. Although you were frightened upon hearing someone's name, now due to the power of conditioning, you dislike that person's absence. And then also from the same text, it is not difficult to consider my body with the perspective I have towards another's body. So these are the 2 points made in exchanging in the bodhisattva's deeds, and that completes the first section. According to Jayan Sheba, the section of point. Just want to make sure. And just from previously, going back, self-centered is the door to all suffering, the door to the 4 sufferings of birth, aging, sickness, and death, and so forth. I just missed that, sorry. So Rinpoche basically just read through this point, number 1 in number 2. Dikson Rinpoche. In the next section, we find a debate. 52 at the bottom, Quam reply. We find a debate about these topics, or debate about the topics, discussion about the topics.
doba yiro doba ne jerong nyana doba ro doba lönde yang pami koral doba yinshis ana ngasu lönde baba amage ami dogo no koral dene lönde yores lönde yang pami koral doba yinshis jeje lönde chashile pami koral pami lönde chashiro da pami lö chashile ane ngasu lö troyores chashile troba yin ma kompi wangi nganzi ngaran zeba chewa taras ngai lö ngas wote jeba chewa tar jenje lö la ya ne rangi jin cheba zemba komba shena chetes ne jean que le jean jeba de ran ye wando ne jean jeba de ne lu che tours jean le la rage jean jeba de ba kona chetes ran jean jeba de jean de combat je ne che tours kyunju tenye le te je tara jean da ne ko ta ki tebalas ami dugo no pami ko ta ki tebale 최지 ngazi sheba tar tebal trubi ne lödla ngai lö ngas zeng duas sheba tar tejin jela komba shes tejin jela ya ne je jeba zeng na komba jege na che tugres o debatre shata toju debatre dua
So the discussion then Shunju Long Tsar Nipa Tsar Shunju Long Tsar Nipa Tsar
Nipa de la Shunju Long de Jit Tsasaro Jit Tsana Nipa ane
the nipa ewa ni yure, then don't you, the
도저 데 게드 서든
kabar kagadu.
도저 데 바더레 다드네
Shunjulung, Shunjulung tsar, nipa tsar,
슈르르
도주 tsar.
제들 젠달로 코아 차게 되바 최정한지 셰바들 대진젠라 공바지에서 어디봐도 어디 니바 찬지 니바
Okay.
도저 찬지다
Okay. So, quam, since someone else's body is not your body, how can you develop the same attitude that you have towards your body? Your body was produced from your father's semen and your mother's blood. Even though it was produced from a portion of someone else's body, you conceive it to be your own by the influence of previous conditioning. So previous familiarization with this idea over and over that this is mine, has then made you believe this. Similarly, if you become accustomed to cherishing another's body as you presently do your own, you will view it with the same perspective that you have towards your own body. So if you start to familiarize yourself with this notion, then that will become the way of thinking. So it says, engaging in the bodhisattva deed says, therefore, just as you conceived I with respect to the drops of blood and semen and blood of others, so you can be conditioned to cherishing others as do yourself. I have another translation of it too I like. Therefore, just as I have come to hold as I these drops of sperm and blood of others, likewise through acquaintance and familiarization, I should also come to regard all others in the same way. To regard all others, to cherish all others in the same way. So this is the point, and I believe that's where the debate section ends, the number 2 ends. That's what we were talking about, and I believe that it ends right there. Dene?
somebata dajen jo kombitus dajen jo kombitu
Dene the yanje.
dajen ji phen ma ji binyeme kombitu so marwa dajen ji phen so ma ji binyeme cha da kombitu de le saji jaji be saji so de do 대דר 편연당서 어떤 말 내용을 대דר 편연당 예미 레바삼베스 대더서 어떤 말
Dene Rinpoche, the yanje, the deta payun dan yemi, the kaba, the sache, the jayan sheba sache, the ewani, the tambo tsar, then don't you tsar. Then the deta payun dan yemi, the kabi are.
somba
Sumba, the rimba, sumba, the
somba 다진 지 다진 냐지 공추스 다진 냐바죠 공비추스 다말 사지 주로로 다진 냐바죠 공비추스 어드레데다 공비추들레 와데 냐지 사지 송자도 송 대다 편에서도 송은 담부들에
Kangin Sina, the tambo ewasum, the payun dan yeme tambo, the nipatsar, then sumba rimbo.
다진 저 공주스 다진 저 공주스 어떤네 송바들에테 다진 저 공주네 대들 편연 당서 어떤네 마 다진 저 공비 수든데 뭐 내가 누구지 양집에
Here again, this happened last time. The Dajen JP Tsu Gombi Rimba Ni. This sumba. Then the detar payun dan yemi kabar chagadu.
다진 저 고비 수세지 로로 데데데 송바들레 용데
Okay.
다진 저 공비 수네스 what 들 사지 송자는 양제비 담부들에 대다 편연당 예미 레바상베 흰 타바네 더 공발라 루슈저 공발시나 제 뇌바야 통화데스 what 들 해도 어때
The tambo.
Chenmo Tonga de, what the Tombo de Tombo. The Penyon Yemi, Lebason, Dajan Jeep, Majibi Yemi, Lebason, he Tabane, Gumbala, Dajan Yaba Jegune, Gombi to the Gungina, ne Tushu Jawala, Tushu Jella, Gumbashena, never the Ungres, Genugres, Nebayan, Tonga des. What about what they Songudan Tombo de Marbe, Songudan Tombo de.
So the explanation of exchanging self with others, I'm confused, but I'm just going to go with it. There are three categories. It doesn't seem to fit right. So I don't know if it's the English, the way they've broken the English into categories. So there are three categories in the explanation of exchanging self with others. The first category is as follows. Reflect thoroughly on the benefits of being other-centered and the faults of being self-centered. Thereby you will produce from the depths of your heart a great delight in meditating on the exchange of self and other. Then recognize that you can gradually generate it once you have become habituated to it. Tambo, then Nipa Dajan JP Tsu Gombi Rimba
The Penyon Yemi San in Tabane,
Los
Gumbala, Tushu Jawala, Gumbrashena, Chenmo Tonga des,
Okay, Tsar
or did
Tambo.
Tombo de Marbe. That
This Sumba. Sumba de Dajan JP Tsu Gombi Rimba. The Dajan JP Tsu Gombi Rimba Ngay Tsampa Dit Sumba.
what day is it? What did Oma thing said it? Dajan G, Gumbi Rimbas, what then they said it. Tombo de Rota. Dajan G, Gumbi Rimbanes, Dajan Jeshebadan, Dajan do Shashin, Jen Dado Sha Shesumba, Jen La Ngawanya Dan, the Menala Sobala Ngai, Ngai have a Lucha Mages, Ran La Cheban Zembadan, Jen Yawandu, Luni Kosajete, Jen La Rantar Cheban Zenjin, Ran La Jen da Yawandu, Lojeba was, Tisher, Dagi Doa, Jenji Doa, Jawa Somba, Ranjila, Datane, Dagi Doala, Chicher, Shebangu Jeans, Jenjin La, Yunten to Tene, Jenji, Dunge, Yawandoa, Kane, Tesewala, Chicher, Shebade, Dona Rangi Doala, Matawa, Jenji Dunge, Sambi Tundu, Juba was what they Songudan Tombo inside. There's Remudu.
Okay. All right. So this is number one also. So we're going to include all of this in number one. And and Rinpoche is just reading right from Giant Sheba's commentary. So this reflect thoroughly. I have opinions, but it doesn't matter. So we'll figure it out in the future. So also in number one, the stages of meditating on how to exchange self and other. The phrases exchanging self and other and making oneself others and others oneself do not indicate a training in an attitude which thinks I am others or others' eyes, etc. are mine. They indicate a change in the orientation of the two states of mind of cherishing yourself and neglecting others, wherein you develop the attitude of cherishing others as you presently do yourself and neglecting yourself as you presently do others. Therefore, Shantideva's statement above that you must exchange your own happiness for others' suffering means to view cherishing yourself as the enemy and then stop emphasizing your own happiness. In addition, you must view cherishing others as a good quality, stop neglecting others' suffering, and instead emphasize the removal of their suffering. In brief, this statement means that you remove others' suffering while disregarding your own happiness. Dixon. So that's number one. There are going to be three categories.
Sumba dajen ji tu gombe rimba la son dajen ji lu ngo zuans. Ta den me le no do a. Dajen ji lu ngo
Barche
zuans.
ni. Ngay samba de tanda Dixon.
Yeah.
Gangen sene de tambo de nyam de Dixon.
Yeah.
Ngay the nipa.
Ni ba se da
Lo de John ne ge ni.
lo de jon la ge ni so ta
That's
ne ma.
the nipa.
Lo de jon la ti ge se wa ne. Lo de jon la ge ni des wa ta ne ma le yin ba re.
The nipa?
Lo de jon la ge ni de ni ba re do ni.
Okay, yapudu. Selbudu.
Ge de jon la lo ni des ni de ni ge na ta bu de ba re da.
That's so. Seldu.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we arrive at number 2, which is there are 2 obstacles to training in this attitude of exchanging self with other. So now it'll point out the difficulties. What are obstacles that'll come up when you try to engage in this practice? Decent?
Ta ge ni de te ba re. Ge ni de ran la yin ji do nge de du ki ten she ba ta yin ni mo se dar so so re so ji ne zhu ban zeng jin zhu ban zeng ji de ne de la ten bi du la on de nga yi yin bi zhu ba sa wa sha wo de ne yin ji yin bi ta ne ye wan du di nie bu ne da dang yin wo ni ji su su ri su che ba me ba des pen su tu ne da la yin ji lu jo wa yin la da ge lu ji she de par su ji yin no bu na par la de ngwe ne tu na par yi lu je ya par ne Shina, Tsuri Luchawa Shinos, Tena, Hobu Kadu Sola Tujan, Hobu Kadu Sola Tujan, Hobu Niji Luchi, Kadu Jinji Lumachawa Mandrawus, the gate on the Teremde, get on the Rada Jinji Dunge, Dudune, and Dudune. Dudu ki ten da tang, yin yin hu se tar su su ri su je nen zinba des. Rang tang, rang ki dawa tang du ngen, yin ji dawa tang du ngen, yin ji dawa tang du ngen, dudu ki ten de da tang yin rwa ta. Da tang yin dawa tang du ngen yung go rwa. Dudu ki ten da tang yin rwa. Dudu ki ten da dang yin yin bu de hobu de subu na yin zingwa res. Hobu de subu gewa rwa. Da dang yin gewa ma rwa. Da dang yin tuan chi rwa. O tenne zingda res. Tuan chi yin bala tuan chi san ma tang wa chi hobu de subu na yin gewa zingda res. O de ge res, da yin ji ge. Yin yin ngose tar su su ri su chi ne zhuban zing jins. Tene, tala tenbi dudu la ngayi dunga yinbi, ngayi yinbi druba sawa, dawa de ngayi dawa yinzang drugu re, dunga de ngayi dunga yin sag gu res, Sanlu the leaders. Then the Jenji Yimbe, Jeng Duato Dunga, Jeng Res, Jenji Yimbe, Tane, Iwandu, Jen Duato Dungel, Sanmatan, you want to go res, Jen you want to go res. Do you Nebune? Da Jen Yani, Da Jen, Muniji, Susu Risu Chiba, Mendes, Da Jen Hositar, Risu Chiba Giomares, Hobana, Sabanaji Mares. Pension Dajen, Pension Dune Trubares, Dala Dune, Jen la Dune, Daja Baramato, Dad Jengi Omar, Dajen, Twenty Pension Dune, Dala Jenji, Lucella, Jenla, Dagi, Luci, said the Paratur, Jijinos, Paratur Rabures, Parat Pagin, then Sarre, then Parua, then I Dad Jen, then Rabures. But na parla dengwene pari loje ya pari china suri loje wa jinos tena hobo kadu sola tue jans hobo kadu sola tue jang hobo ni je loje hobo de kadu sola suete ba ina hobo onya loje gre ma do hobo kabar se loje ga maru dal lulu jende chego na matu ji is kadu jenji lumme jiwa dang munra wo sa ten ra ga ma re sta hobo de sabun ge wa re da de jen ge wa ma de ji de ten ra ga ma re wa de ba tong re do ge so tong bu de.
So the first of the two obstacles, then gei ni, the sache som, the gei ni, nipa kona.
Geshe wala ni, tambo taba tuje, nipa tanda mare, lao tuje atanda.
Yine tambo dang nipa ni.
Geshe wala ni re doa. Geshe wala ni, tambo taba tuje.
Okay, we'll see.
Nipa ta lao tuje, lao tuje.
Okay, so this will be the first category, and it runs all the way up to Shanti Deva's quote from the Compendium of Trainings. So the first obstacle, you make a categorical, okay, there are two obstacles to training in this attitude of exchanging self and other. You make a categorical differentiation between people who are happy or suffering, yourself and others, making them as different as blue and yellow. Then you accomplish your happiness and remove your suffering because you think of them as mine, and you neglect others' happiness and suffering because you think of them as belonging to others. Therefore, the remedy for this is not to make a categorical distinction between self and other as being essentially different. Rather, understand that self and other are mutually dependent, such that when you are aware of self, you are aware of other, and when you are aware of other, you are aware of self. It is like being aware of near mountains and distant mountains. For example, relative to your being here, you think of a mountain there in the distance as being a distant mountain. Yet when you go to the distant mountain, you think of it as a near mountain. So the awareness of self and other is not like the awareness of color. For regardless of what color blue is related to, you are aware of just blue and are not aware of some other color. So this is the number one. Rinpoche went back, read it again with explanation. There are two obstacles to training in the attitude of exchanging self and others. So there are two problems that will arise when you go to train in this practice that gives rise to the mind that aspires to enlightenment. You make a categorical differentiation between people who are happy or suffering, yourself and others, making them as different as blue and yellow. So when we look at two different colors, they're separate entities. They're mutually exclusive. There's no common locus between yellow and blue. So we say that these two they stand on their own. They don't have a common locus. There's not, in other words, there's not, just as a translator's note, green doesn't count. It's not adding them together because green isn't blue. You know what I mean? When you look at it, it's not, you know what I mean? So that was something that came up in debate and is easily defeated. So because a common locus has to be something which is both in terms of a valid cognition. You would have to see both, and you don't. You see one thing, which is green, just as a note. So there's no common locus. So blue and yellow don't have a common locus. So we look at self and other like they're topics like blue and yellow. But self and other are actually mutually inclusive. If it is self, it's another. If it's another, it's a self. Just as a translator's note, again, that self and that other are mutually exclusive. They aren't mutually inclusive or synonymous. Just self and other. Just the topic, self and other. If it's a self, it's another. If it's another, it's a self. That self and that other, when you add that to it, they become mutually exclusive. But when we say just the blank topic of self and other, those are mutually inclusive. So we begin to look at these in a different way and see them as this categorical differentiation isn't the same as if we are looking at different topics. So we begin to understand that that it's not in the same way. So this is an obstacle that comes up, that you think that they're as different as blue and yellow. And it says, then you accomplish your happiness and remove your suffering because you think of them as mine, and you neglect others' happiness and suffering because you think of them as belonging to others. So by making this distinction, you only work towards your own happiness because you don't see how it has any relation to others whatsoever. Therefore, the remedy for this is to not make a categorical distinction between self and other as being essentially different. Just the self and other itself, the essence, isn't different. Rather, understand that self and other are mutually dependent, that such when you are aware of a self, you are aware of another. And when you are aware of other, you are aware of self. It's like being aware of near mountains and distant mountains. So then this was Rinpoche just read through, for example, relative to your being here, you think of a mountain there in the distance as being a distant mountain, yet when you go to the distant mountain, you think of it as a near mountain. So when you look at a mountain in the distance, it looks far away, but when you get to it, it's near, and then wherever you were before is far. So the awareness of self and other is not like the awareness of a color, for regardless of what color blue is related to, you are aware of just blue and are not aware of some other color. And then we have the quote from Shantideva, and then that gives rise to the second obstacle. Decent Rinpoche. Shantideva.
Dada Jenny Dubate Parasur Jin Dunes Dada Jenny the what the tune to Parasur Rabores Gewa Mosena Gewa the Mares Parasur Najes Jin Dun Monte Rangi Parume Gala Tune Turun Jorosa the one Patubina and the Paris Pagandan Sura. What is on the inside? What the ranky Parume Gala Tun Turjurosa, Pagina, Turchano Grace, Pagandon Dacha, Pandona Gencha Grace, Dani Ranki Maduna, Dada Gensa Rangone, Consenaji, Susutuba Mares, Dunetubades. Dani Rang Maduna, Gala Tune Gentu Jurus, Gala Tune, and Parallel Tune Genchanagre, Sural Tune and Dacha Ungres, Gala Tune Gentu Juro. She, Tusala, Tune, Jabatan Ages, Ranking Wardrobe member, Sonsos. What did
the Tambo Nyamdu, Yomaribe? Can you send a dunda cheaper?
Okay. Tune Jabatan Age, Ranking Wardrobe member Sonso. Yang Genji, Dungenji, Dalamene, the say, Dando, Mamedu Jambi, Geshe Lharampa. Yeah.
The daddy.
Genji Dungenji, and Genji Dungan Dal Nogomaris. Genji Dungan say Government was. Genji Dungan Dalam Nogomand was. Jeji Dungen Ji, Dalai Menebe, Jeji Dungen the Sea Tundo, Nikali Joga Mudus, Memedo Jabi, Geshe Lharampa, what then my Ajal Chile. Then Macarena Saji Jiba Jimudo, Saji Jiba. She no Tambutana gave us the Leon.
So Shantideva's compendium of training. By becoming accustomed to the quality of self and other, the spirit of enlightenment becomes firm. Self and other are interdependent, like the side and the other side of a river, they are false. The other bank is not itself other. In relation to someone else, it is this bank. Similarly, self does not exist in its own right. In relation to someone else, it is other. Thus, Shantideva indicates that self and other are merely posited in relation to a particular reference point and do not essentially exist. So here the point again is if you are looking at a bank that is far away, you're saying that bank, but when you get to it, you say this bank, and then where you were becomes that place. So it's just showing how there's essentially not an existent this or that place because it is all in relation to a frame of reference of some sort. So that's the point that's being made here. Ngay tsamba de gay nipa. Dene deta na gepi tsu dungya wa de nipa.
Or then ma Saji got a dream.
Yeshing me. The kensa the sache de detso dets kensapudu. Gangisena de ngama de
Kon Hatu Saji, Niba Gesewala, Gene,
gay ni.
Yang, Ge Genji, Dalai Menebe, they say to Membeto said what they said.
So then with the Shanti
Dana, the what the Dana Gesa or Denma, Saji Jidin, Tombutre, Saji Jidin, Dana, Gambit, Dunga Tune, Jumbit, non suba Meba Jute, Gibi Dungaji, Jumbal Menebisher Tombur Tombo. What the Saji Jidin, Tombutre.
Okay, then this sache jire, then this
sache
sumba
jidin.
nipugare.
Ah,
The tambo the Rinpoche the sumba ewa sumyure. Tambo the nipa the lapdule. Then sumba kabiore.
Niba Gesewala Asa.
Lessa.
Niba Gesewala Gene, Yang, Genji, Dalai Menebe, this is the Membeto Jabi, Gesewala, Sajinga Diguna.
Sache nga gar nga.
Sajinga
Sache
Diguna.
sum. Garinga.
Niba Gesewala Gene,
Gay ni.
Yang, Genji, Dalai Menebe, see the Membeto Jabi, Gesewala, and Sajinga Diguna. Yang doing Dal Nog Mares, this is Dal Kalijo Mares, what they get the Sewala, Sajinga Dine, Tombo Gijon said Leon, get the Jon said Naganon Tombre.
Then tambo kabargutsogudu.
Tombo Gijon said in Maleon, Tombo. Tatana give it says, doing what do ne, Naganon Tombre.
Okay, so this there's this number 2 here in the English. There's going to be 5 categories in this. I don't know what's happened. So there's going to be 5 categories in this section. I'm not sure. I'm just translating. So there's going to be 5 in this section, and it's going to begin with this number 2. So the first point, Yang Gengi Dungyalgi Da Minupa Seldur.
Gejuni je dala mano tu chanto ge se tu mebe tu chabi ge se wala nga les tombo gejun sa ta le wore tombo gejun nga ga tombo de gejun ge ba ta jumbi
Okay, then there are 5. So
ta
you
ta
must...
na ge bi se du nga wa tu ne ana nga so ma ge bi sa tu kali khabu yung so ne ana lo jumbi tu kali jo ne chala ma sa gro o del hedro ta na gebi tse dunga wa tune jembi tser nanso ba me ban jutes ne gebi tse dunga wa tune jembi tse ne sala sayala so ba jala sa ba tanda me ba tan gres me ban jute gebi dunga je jela mene be gebi dunga de jembal no maros mene be kaji de kadro da kaji go
The Kanga Tambo?
Okay.
You must remove the obstacle of thinking, I will not make an effort to dispel others' suffering because others' suffering does not harm me. It would be like not accumulating wealth in your youth out of fear of suffering in your old age because you think that your suffering in your old age does no harm to you in your youth. That's 1.
Menabi tombaji niba tere ta niba. Te jinto kambi dunghe yang labi mesewan jute tase mabu tangdo ta. Tase tangde ta. Kambi dunghe yang labi mesewan jute jen bi shero she zombi eje. Wote niba de marbe. Na kambal nasan yoba ina laba ge men shuyola soba tene chegro. Te chegu mo duas. Kamba ga nasa labal nogo mo duas tazi tang marbe a. Kamba na sona men shuyola soba laba ge dus chegro. Tel goba me ata kambi dunga je labal mene be eje. Wote
The Nipa?
Nipa.
Okay, so the second point that's made is a large area of debate in the monastery. This actual point here that's made, there's a lot of debate surrounding it. It would be like not alleviating the pain in your foot with your hand because your foot is other. Old age, hold on, I think that's it. It would be like not alleviating the pain in your foot with your hand because your foot is other. That's it. So it's saying that I shouldn't put any ointment on this foot with my hand because it's not affecting my hand in any way. It's because foot is other, hand is hand, and to hand, foot is other, so there's no relationship, so I shouldn't fix it with this hand. Diksun.
Ta somba gejun da so ten se more. Somba gejun da jewa ngajin chomba zang da gejun da jewa ngajin ngama da shema sa tu ngalo. Chomba example chomba zang de ma du. Ane nyema ngati nyema ngama da shema. Ane ngadu da shedro. Ngadu da shedro su mabula jaros. Wata ba somba de ngadu da shedro su nga tune tu ba ma be tune.
Kanga. Okay.
Tune tu ba ma gewa maru da. Ngadu da shedro. Ane ngadu da shedro su le o de ja gures da. Tune tu ba ma gewa mares ja gures. Pa ke gures.
Old age and youth, or similarly former and future lives, are just illustration. This principle applies also to morning and evening, former and later days, and so forth. We find that these are mutually inclusive. Former days and later days are mutually inclusive because if it's a former day, it's a later day. If it's a later day, it's a former day. Decent.
Ta jeba kete se tene jeba lemore. Kete gejun juji yin las. Kala choba ji yinbe. Rajen yin da manda wo nya na ya toba ji le do wa. Da so pacha tu kaji nar se tere. Kete gejun ni gemba da jeba yin da juji res. Kala choba ji yinbe. ane rāng tāng xiān yin dāga mā rēs, rāng tāng xiān dāga mā rē, genyen yin ju ji re kamba de la ba ngalo ana kaza ji kamba de la ba was da de yen so de da ma res yen de mo ro nya nas do ba ro do ba ju do tsuba ne keji mo bu da ju do tsuba se de keji mo bu tsuba la ju lo gres ju shabu ni ane dawaji loji wote juns de ja gures jun tsuba keji mo bu da tsuba je mo bu la da ba zang yin je jun se tsuba la tu ne da ba zang yin je ran ja yi de ngo zhu ba yo ma res de ba zhu ba yo ma res rang ki da da yin je da jang su jun la tu rang ki da da nga da yin se de rang rang da ju tsuba la tu ne jo ge be tsuba la tu ne 포모 감모 거론 된 답이 제부 가자 생긴 쓰고 말이야. 포모 초발을 뛰는 답이 자고르스 조베 다다 jen 뛰네 잡아서 임베 랑 모주바메 도스 다다 jen 모주바메데 뛰는 포모가 초존을 뛰네 다바서 임베 뛰네 잡아 임베스 랑 모주바메 도사 어디버디 제바레
Okay, so number 4, we have a debate that arises. But old age and youth are one continuum, and the foot and hand are one collection. Therefore, they are not the same as self and other. Response: continuum and collection are designated to many moments and to many parts. They do not have a self-sufficient essence. The self of yourself and the self of others must be posited to a collection and a continuum, so self and other are not established by way of an essence that can be posited independently. So we don't have, in order to posit self, there is merely a collection that comes together and then is nominally designated as self, as this or that, or as the I. But there is no independent, inherently existent I that's separate from that collection that's coming together and then named. So it takes this nominal designation on top of this collection in order for the thing to come into existence. So when we look at the definition of person, it is a being imputed on any among the 5 aggregates. So as a note, translator's note, it says any among the 5 because a formless realm being doesn't have a form aggregate. So it has to have that as a any among the 5 because there are some realms that don't have 5 aggregates. Translator's note. So a being imputed on any among the 5 aggregates. So this is what the definition of being is. So this is a self is a being imputed on any among the 5 aggregates. So we have this collection of 5 aggregates that come together, and then they are nominally designated as a self. So there's no independent, inherently existent self that exists, and it says there's no essence that can be posited independently. There certainly isn't. It's an interdependent situation, which in order for a self to be established, there has to be an other then also to be established. So this nominal designation of myself requires then this frame of reference of someone else for there to be this interaction where I separate myself and feel as this in a state of independence. Digson Rinpoche.
진진 공비 왕기 랑기 동안 쇼와라 무저 바임베스 저 도마마 다디버드 랑 진진 공비 왕기 랑기 동안 쇼와라 되는 무저 바용고요레스 무저 바임베 제라 진진 고나 디 동안 세와라 무저 바지와지노스 네제 진진도 공부하시게 네제 동안라야 아네 랑 동안 쇼나 무저 바나지 제제 동안 쇼와라야 무저 바지그레스 저와진노 대다르 다진 지 오르다 사지 올 마지레노 다던 거잖아 말이야 저와진노 어디 받으잖아.
Okay. However, since beginningless time, number 5, you have found your own suffering unbearable because you have been conditioned to self-cherishing. Therefore, if you become conditioned to cherishing others, you will give rise to an attitude of finding others' suffering unbearable. So you've been conditioned in one way, so it means you can be conditioned in another way as well. So if you familiarize yourself with this new way of thinking, then you will eventually arrive at this as your status quo, your normal, your norm. Rinpoche said there's a lot more to go, so as he was about to go read more, he said, let's just stop here because we're out of time. And we'll pick up next time. So thank you everyone for listening and for your patience, and we will know more next time. All right. Concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drakpa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the 3 times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All-powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Yatso, may you stay until samsara's end. Pray for the long life of the precious Khensur Rinpoche, holder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts with exceptional wisdom and perseverance. Tuji Rinpoche Gutsi Shapi Denrana, Su Lamrim Chenmo Kangai Chiranang.